What happens when one of the biggest pop stars in the world comes face to face with a talk show host who seems determined to humiliate her on live television? Tonight, we're diving into the explosive confrontation that had Jennifer Lopez storming off Jimmy Kimmel's show after what started as a routine interview quickly turned into a brutal character assassination. This wasn't your typical celebrity chat. This was a calculated attack that left the audience stunned and questioning everything they thought they knew about late-night television. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and what you're about to hear will shock you to your core. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below, because this story gets more unbelievable with every word. The Tonight Show studio was buzzing with its usual pre-show energy as Jennifer Lopez made her way backstage, her team trailing behind her with the kind of precision that comes from years of high-profile appearances. She had done this dance 1,000 times before, promoting her latest project with the charm and professionalism that had made her a household name for decades. What she didn't know was that Jimmy Kimmel had spent the better part of the afternoon crafting what he considered his masterpiece, a line of questioning designed not to entertain his audience, but to tear down one of entertainment's most beloved figures. As the cameras rolled and the familiar late-night show music filled the air, Kimmel's smile seemed different tonight, more predatory than welcoming. Jennifer walked onto the stage with her signature confidence, waving to the cheering crowd who had no idea they were about to witness something that would make headlines for all the wrong reasons. She settled into the guest chair, adjusting her stunning outfit and flashing that million-dollar smile that had graced countless magazine covers. So Jennifer Kimmel began, his tone already carrying an edge that seasoned talk show viewers might have caught. "I have to ask you about something that's been bothering me for a while now." The audience fell silent, sensing something was off. Jennifer's media training kicked in immediately, her smile never wavering as she leaned forward slightly, ready to handle whatever curveball was coming her way. "Of course, Jimmy. What's on your mind?" she replied, her voice warm and professional, though those who knew her well might have detected the slightest tension in her posture. This was supposed to be a friendly chat about her upcoming film, a feel-good story about her journey in the entertainment industry. Not whatever this was turning into. Kimmel's next words cut through the studio like a blade. "I've been doing some research, and I have to say, your reputation for being difficult to work with is pretty well documented. Multiple sources have told me that you're demanding, entitled, and frankly, not very nice to the people around you. Care to comment on that?" The question hung in the air like poison gas, and you could practically hear the collective gasp from the audience. Jennifer's eyes flashed with something between surprise and anger, but her years of experience in the spotlight served her well. "Jimmy, I'm not sure where you're getting your information, but I pride myself on being professional and respectful to everyone I work with. I think you might have me confused with someone else," she said, her voice steady but with a steel undertone that wasn't there moments before. But Kimmel wasn't done. In fact, he was just getting started. "Oh no, I'm quite certain it's you. I have it on good authority that you once made a PA cry because your coffee wasn't the right temperature. And then there's the incident where you allegedly refused to work with a director because he didn't address you by your full name every single time he spoke to you. These aren't just rumors, Jennifer. These are patterns of behavior." The studio audience was now completely silent, the usual laughter and applause replaced by an uncomfortable tension that seemed to fill every corner of the room. Jennifer's team, watching from the wings, looked like they wanted to rush onto the stage and pull her out of there, but they knew that would only make things worse. This was a live television disaster in the making, and everyone could feel it. "Jimmy, I'm going to stop you right there," Jennifer said, her voice now carrying the full weight of her authority. "I came here tonight to talk about my work, my passion projects, and to connect with your audience. I didn't come here to be ambushed with what sounds like tabloid gossip and made-up stories. If you have specific allegations, I'd like to know your sources, because what you're describing doesn't sound like me at all." Kimmel leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying the discomfort he was creating. "Well, my sources prefer to remain anonymous, but they're very credible people in the industry, people who have worked with you directly and have some pretty shocking stories to tell. I'm just giving you the opportunity to set the record straight." His smile was all teeth and no warmth, like a shark circling its prey. The camera operators were having a field day, capturing every micro-expression, every moment of tension that was building between the two celebrities. Jennifer's composure was holding, but cracks were beginning to show. Her hands, which had been casually resting on the arm of her chair, were now gripping it slightly, and her smile had become more of a grimace. "Jimmy, this is really unprofessional," she said, her voice rising just slightly above the calm, measured tone she had maintained so far. "You're making accusations without proof, spreading rumors that could damage my reputation and my career. Is this really the kind of show you want to run? Is this the kind of host you want to be?" But Kimmel was in full attack mode now, feeding off the energy of the conflict he had created. "I'm just asking questions that I think the public deserves answers to. You're a public figure, Jennifer, and the public has a right to know what you're really like behind all the glamour and the PR machine. And from what I'm hearing, what they'd find isn't very pretty." The tension in the studio had reached a breaking point, but Kimmel seemed energized by the chaos he was orchestrating. Jennifer's jaw tightened as she processed what was happening, realizing that this wasn't just poor journalism, it was a deliberate character assassination being broadcast to millions of viewers. Her publicist, in the wings, was frantically gesturing to the producers, but they seemed frozen, unsure whether to intervene or let the train wreck continue for the sake of ratings. "You know what, Jimmy?" Jennifer said, her voice now carrying a dangerous edge that anyone who had followed her career would recognize as the moment before she stopped playing nice. "I've been in this business for over 3 decades. I've worked with everyone from Steven Soderbergh to the biggest names in music. And somehow, magically, all these alleged problems you're talking about have never made it into any legitimate press coverage. Don't you find that interesting?" Response was swift and cruel. "Maybe it's because people are afraid of you. Maybe it's because your team is very good at covering things up and making problems disappear. Money talks, Jennifer, and you have a lot of it. But tonight, on my show, we're going to talk about the truth." The audience was now shifting uncomfortably in their seats, many of them looking around as if trying to figure out if this was some kind of elaborate bit that they weren't in on, but the genuine anger radiating from Jennifer and the smug satisfaction on Kimmel's face made it clear that this was very real, very ugly, and very much not planned. "The truth," Jennifer laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The truth is that you've ambushed me on live television with what sounds like a bunch of made-up stories designed to humiliate me in front of your audience. The truth is that this is probably the most unprofessional interview I've ever been a part of. And that's saying something because I've done thousands of them." But Kimmel wasn't backing down. If anything, her pushback seemed to embolden him further. "Let's talk about your recent projects then. Your last 3 movies have been critical disasters. Your music career has been struggling for years. Some people are saying that maybe you're just not as talented as you think you are, that maybe all the success you've had has been more about image than actual ability. What do you say to those critics?" The question was so deliberately insulting, so calculated to wound, that even some of the crew members working behind the cameras looked shocked. This had gone beyond tough journalism into the realm of personal attack, and everyone in the studio could feel it. Jennifer's composure, which had been hanging by a thread, finally began to crack in a way that was both heartbreaking and powerful to witness. "Are you seriously questioning my talent right now?" she asked, her voice rising with genuine incredulity. "I've sold over 70 million records worldwide. I've starred in films that have grossed hundreds of millions of dollars. I've built a business empire from nothing, coming from the Bronx with big dreams, and making them reality through hard work and dedication. And you're sitting there behind your desk, questioning whether I have talent." The fire in her eyes was unmistakable. Now, and for the first time since the interview began, Kimmel seemed to realize that he might have pushed too far. But instead of backing down or apologizing, he doubled down on his attack, apparently believing that he could bully one of the most successful entertainers in the world into submission on his own show. "I'm just saying what a lot of people in Hollywood are thinking, but are too polite to say out loud." Kimmel replied with a shrug that was designed to appear casual but came across as deeply disrespectful. "Maybe it's time for some honest conversation about whether the Jennifer Lopez brand has run its course. Maybe it's time to admit that the emperor has no clothes." The metaphor was particularly cruel, and Jennifer's reaction was immediate and visceral. She stood up from her chair, her full height and presence now dominating the stage in a way that made Kimmel look small and petty by comparison. "You know what, Jimmy? I've heard enough. This isn't an interview, this is a hit job, and I'm not going to sit here and let you tear me down for your entertainment or your ratings." But Kimmel, perhaps sensing that he was losing control of the situation, made one final, devastating mistake. "Oh, come on, Jennifer. Don't be so sensitive. Can't you take a little criticism? Maybe this is exactly the kind of reaction that proves my point about you being difficult to work with. Maybe this is why people in the industry have problems with your attitude." The words hung in the air like a challenge, and Jennifer's response was swift and cutting. "Sensitive? You think standing up for myself against baseless attacks makes me sensitive? You think refusing to let a talk show host destroy my reputation with lies and innuendo makes me difficult? Let me tell you something about sensitive. Jimmy, sensitive is a grown man who builds his career on tearing other people down because he doesn't have the talent or the courage to build anything positive of his own." The audience was now completely silent, and you could hear a pin drop in the studio. Camera operators were zooming in on both faces, capturing every moment of this unprecedented confrontation. Jennifer's team backstage looked like they were watching a car accident in slow motion, knowing they should intervene but unable to look away from the spectacle. "You want to talk about my career, Jimmy? Let's talk about yours. You've been doing the same tired act for years, making jokes about celebrities and politicians while contributing absolutely nothing meaningful to the world. At least when I fail while trying to create something, while trying to entertain people, while trying to inspire young women who look like me to believe they can achieve their dreams. What do you do besides tear people down?" Kimmel's face had gone pale, and for perhaps the first time in his career, he seemed genuinely rattled. "Jennifer, I think you're overreacting here. This is just the nature of celebrity interviews. We ask tough questions, you give good answers, everyone goes home happy. You're taking this way too personally." "Personally?" Jennifer's voice was now filled with a righteous anger that commanded attention from everyone in the room. "You've spent the last 15 minutes questioning my character, my talent, my professionalism, and my worth as a human being, and you think I'm taking it too personally? You've turned what should have been a conversation about my work into a public humiliation, and you want me to just smile and take it?" The confrontation had reached a fever pitch, with both celebrities now locked in a battle of wills that was unlike anything late-night television had ever seen. Jennifer's passion and dignity in the face of Kimmel's attacks was creating a stark contrast that made it clear to everyone watching who was in the right and who was in the wrong. "This is exactly what I'm talking about," Kimmel said, making his biggest mistake yet. "This attitude, this inability to handle criticism, this demand that everyone treats you like royalty. This is why people in Hollywood say you're impossible to work with. You're proving my point right here on live television." Jennifer's eyes blazed with a fury that seemed to illuminate the entire studio as Kimmel's final insult landed. The audience sat in stunned silence, witnessing what would undoubtedly become one of the most talked-about moments in late-night television history. But instead of exploding in anger, as Kimmel seemed to expect, Jennifer took a deep breath and delivered what would become the most devastating response of the entire confrontation. "You know what, Jimmy?" she said, her voice now deadly, calm in a way that was somehow more terrifying than shouting. "I want to thank you for showing everyone exactly who you really are tonight. Because while you've been sitting there trying to tear me down with lies and rumors, you've actually revealed something much more important about yourself. You've shown that you're the kind of person who invites someone onto your show under false pretenses just so you can attack them when they can't defend themselves properly." The cameras captured every word, every gesture, as Jennifer transformed from a guest under attack into a woman taking complete control of the situation. Her years of experience in the entertainment industry, her battles fought and won, her rise from the Bronx to global superstardom, all of it was channeled into this moment of pure, dignified fury. "You talk about my attitude, Jimmy, but let's talk about yours. What kind of attitude does it take to spend hours preparing attacks on someone who thought they were coming here as your guest? What kind of person do you have to be to smile and shake someone's hand backstage, then try to destroy them once the cameras start rolling? That's not journalism, that's not entertainment, that's just cruelty disguised as television." Kimmel tried to interrupt, clearly desperate to regain control of his own show. but Jennifer's voice cut through his stammering like a sword. "No, you had your time to talk. Now it's mine. You want to question my professionalism? Let's talk about professional behavior." A professional host does their research, asks thoughtful questions, and treats their guests with basic human respect. A professional host doesn't ambush people with tabloid gossip and personal attacks. The studio audience was now completely captivated, many of them leaning forward in their seats as if watching a masterclass in how to handle a bully. Jennifer's poise under pressure was remarkable. Her ability to articulate her thoughts clearly, while under attack, was a testament to her experience and inner strength. "You mentioned my recent projects, Jimmy, so let me tell you about them. My last film was a passion project about immigration and the American dream, something I believed in so strongly that I took a pay cut to make sure it got made. Continues to inspire millions of people around the world, and my business ventures have created jobs for thousands of people. What have you created lately, besides negativity and division?" Kimmel's face was now flushed red, and he was visibly sweating under the studio lights. "Jennifer, I think we should just move on to talking about your new movie," he said weakly, apparently trying to salvage what was left of the interview. But Jennifer wasn't about to let him off that easily. "Oh no, we're not moving on," she said. Firmly, "You started this conversation about my character and my reputation, so we're going to finish it. You want to talk about being difficult to work with? Let me tell you what difficult really looks like. Difficult is working 18-hour days to perfect a performance. Difficult is demanding excellence from yourself and everyone around you. You believe the audience deserves the best you can give them. Difficult is refusing to compromise your artistic vision just because it would be easier." The power dynamic in the studio had completely shifted now. What had started as Kimmel's ambush had become Jennifer's platform, and she was using it to deliver a masterclass in dignity and strength. Her voice carried to every corner of the studio, commanding attention and respect in a way that Kimmel's sneering attacks never could. "You know what's really difficult, Jimmy? Having to sit here and defend yourself against made-up stories while trying to maintain your composure on live television, having to smile and be polite while someone tries to destroy your reputation for entertainment, having to represent not just yourself, but every woman in this industry who has been called difficult simply for having standards and expecting to be treated with respect." The mention of other women seemed to strike a chord with many people in the audience, particularly the women, who began to nod in agreement. Jennifer had tapped into something larger than just her own experience. She was speaking for countless women who had been labeled as difficult simply for refusing to be diminished. "I've been in this business for 30 years, Jimmy, and I've seen a lot of men get praised for the exact same behavior that gets women called difficult. When a male director demands multiple takes to get a scene right, he's called a perfectionist. When a woman does it, she's difficult. When a male star negotiates hard for better working conditions for his entire cast and crew, he's called a leader. When a woman does it, she's demanding." Kimmel tried once more to regain control, his voice cracking slightly as he spoke. "Look, Jennifer, maybe we got off on the wrong foot here. Why don't we start over and talk about your upcoming projects in a more positive light?" But the damage was done, and Jennifer wasn't about to let him pretend that the last 20 minutes hadn't happened. "Start over?" she asked, her eyebrows raised in disbelief. "You think you can spend this entire interview trying to humiliate me and then just start over when it doesn't go the way you planned? That's not how this works, Jimmy. You made your choice about what kind of interview this was going to be, and now you have to live with the consequences." The tension in the studio was now electric, with crew members, audience members, and even the other guests scheduled for later in the show watching in fascination as this unprecedented confrontation continued to unfold. Jennifer's ability to maintain her composure while delivering such pointed criticism was mesmerizing. "You asked me earlier about my sources," Kimmel said desperately, apparently trying one last time to justify his behavior. "I was just trying to give you a chance to address some concerns that people in the industry have raised." But Jennifer cut him off before he could finish the thought. "What concerns, Jimmy, from what people? You keep talking about these mysterious sources, but you won't name them. You keep mentioning these industry concerns, but you can't provide any specifics. Do you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like you made this whole thing up just so you could have a controversial interview that would get people talking." The accusation hung heavy in the air, and Kimmel's inability to provide concrete examples or name actual sources suddenly seemed very telling. Jennifer had effectively called his bluff, and everyone in the studio could see it. "I think, Jennifer," said, standing up from her chair with the kind of grace and dignity that had made her a star, "that this interview is over. I came here tonight to talk about my work and to connect with your audience, but instead, I've been subjected to what can only be described as a character assassination attempt. I won't sit here and pretend that's acceptable." The studio erupted. In chaos, as Jennifer began to remove her microphone, her movements deliberate and controlled, even as the situation spiraled completely out of Kimmel's control. Producers were frantically gesturing from the wings, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the drama continue to play out. "Jennifer, please," Kimmel pleaded, his voice now carrying a note of panic as he realized that his biggest guest was about to walk off his show on live television. "Let's just finish the interview. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about," but Jennifer was done playing his game. "No, Jimmy, we can't just finish the interview like nothing happened. You can't attack someone's character and then expect them to sit there and smile for your cameras. You can't try to destroy someone's reputation and then act like it's all just part of the show. That's not how real life works, and it's not how I work." As Jennifer walked toward the edge of the stage, she turned back one final time to deliver what would become the most quoted line from the entire confrontation. "You know what the real difference is between us, Jimmy, when I leave here tonight? I'll go home knowing that I stood up for myself and maintained my dignity in the face of an unprovoked attack. What will you go home with?" The question echoed through the studio as Jennifer Lopez, one of the biggest stars in the world, walked off Jimmy Kimmel's show with her head held high, leaving behind a host who had clearly bitten off more than he could chew and an audience that had just witnessed television history in the making. What do you think about Jennifer's decision to walk off the show? Was she right to stand up for herself, or should she have tried to finish the interview? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more incredible stories from the world of entertainment that you won't hear anywhere else.